Thanks so much for joining us. Well, John, first, let me start with you. What exactly are the concessions that workers are being asked to take? And is this typical of contract negotiations where the managers are coming to you guys asking for you to take concessions right at the outset without even discussing wage proposals?
What's not customary or common is that this long negotiations have gone on without even a comprehensive offer being brought across the table. They're asking for serious concessions around bargaining work, removal of overtime pay, removal of premium pay, reductions in the benefits offered for health care for the workers, long-term workers, as well as pension. And all this, and yet they're holding back even offering what wages the workers are to receive. It's just outrageous that it's gone on this long. We've known the contract was going to expire March 6th, for 4 years, and yet for them to delay and delay and delay has forced us to call for a strike authorization vote tomorrow.
So UFCW members across Southern California will be voting at a number of locations. If they do vote, if a majority votes to authorize a strike, what happens then?
We need 2/3 of the membership.
Oh, I see. So
we're
not
running
so
democratically. Yes, a supermajority. In this case, it's a good thing because we want to show, and we expect a more than a supermajority, near unanimous vote. Because what the company's been saying over and over again is the workers don't mind. Workers don't care. They don't ask for these premiums. They want to work these hours. They want to work a 6th day without overtime, but they're not able to now because the company has to pay overtime. We think that's ridiculous, and we want to bring, with this strike authorization vote, the members to the table to show them, in fact, the company that they're wrong. In fact, the members demand a decent contract and want to be able to have a good job in our community.
So if the vote does go in the way of authorizing a vote, at that point, it's the union leadership that can then decide, since you have the backing of workers, at which point to give up on negotiations and actually go on strike.
Right. The curious thing is the company's done this all across the country over the last 2 years. Negotiated well past the deadline, and it hasn't been until a strike authorization vote where, in fact, the membership has stood up and said we're not going to take anymore, that a contract, in fact, has been reached.
Maribel Garcia, tell our listeners a little bit about what exactly it means for you to hear these concessions that these major grocery companies that have earned billions in profits are asking workers like you to take.
We work hard for this company. It's not fair. They make so much money.
And so you work for Ralph's, so that's the parent company's Kroger. And I mean, even in these economically tough times, it's not as though these companies are doing poorly because everybody needs food. They might even be doing better, right? Because people are eating out less or going to the expensive grocery stores less.
Yes.
Tell us also about the way in which these major companies are, with respect to things like overtime. What do they expect of workers like you? John, maybe you can fill in.
Sure. They have reduced the number of employees in each store and cut back the number of hours, forcing the workers to work faster and faster and faster and harder, and in fact encouraging, if you will, to work off the clock. Maribel was the front end.
I was PIC, and I just turned person in charge. I run the store. I close whenever they want me to close. I just turned my keys in. They have me running, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
She had to step down.
So the pace of your work has gone up dramatically because they're just not paying enough workers?
Right. They're saving a lot of money. I run 6 registers, the self-checkout, and I have to do Western Union, money orders. I have to help all the cashiers, give them breaks, everything.
So you're constantly juggling a lot of things.
Right. So I just turned in my keys in, so it's been 2 weeks.
Now, on March 26th, there was a major labor rally here in Los Angeles that I understand you were at, and hundreds of people came out, including UFCW workers. There was even a stop during the march in front of a Ralph's. What sort of build-up has there been? Tell us a little bit about that rally and how important it was.
It's actually, the buildup has gone on for the last 2 years, where we've been having area meetings up and down the coast, as far north as Paso Robles, working, mobilizing the members. About a year ago, we began buttoning up with buttons that said March 2011 to highlight the expiration of the contract. Then we began passing out grocery bags and getting pledge cards from the community, one of which we bought for you today, to get community support. And we've distributed, and the workers have organized these on their own throughout Southern California, over 20,000 bags, and got close to 18,000 pledge cards from community members willing to support good jobs in their community. The march then was almost a focal point where we stopped outside. Everybody, over 10,000 workers who were from other unions, and there's probably over 2,000 UFCW members who are outside the Ralphs. And Ralphs is a union store, as is Vons and Albertsons, and for years they've done the right thing. They've allowed people to become who are part of this community, to fulfill the requirement of mandatory education. But after they've been educated, they got jobs in the community. They were able to support themselves, support their families, put themselves through college or the kids through college. Now they're trying to strip that away. Maribel's now down to 24 hours a week.
Wow. So do you feel that these grocery companies have been emboldened by the attacks that we're seeing on labor around the country? I mean, grocery workers have a longer history of struggling for their rights than do unionized state employees. The state employees and the attacks on their rights have been the major focus in the media this year with what's been happening in Wisconsin and other states. But if we go back further, listeners here in Southern California may recall the very serious and major long-term grocery workers strike that took place several years ago when people went out on strike. There were picket lines that got very serious. And so you have a long history of doing this. But at this day and age, in this particular time, are these very high profitable grocery stores doing this, you think, because they feel encouraged by the anti-worker climate we're in today?
Yes, I think it's clear, and I think you can almost tell by the smirks and their attitude at the table is unionization means that workers have a voice in their working conditions and their hours and their wages. They're basically disregarding that, and that seems to be the sentiment today: is that democracy is being stripped from the workplace even more than it has been before. And to that extent, I think they're just sitting back and waiting for us to do something, yet providing their speculators, their shareholders, with millions of dollars in dividends, and yet nothing for the workers who, in fact, provide this essential service to our community.
Well, finally, what can ordinary people do? What can listeners do? What can people who shop at these stores, or maybe who are listening, who know people or family members who work at these stores, what can they do in the next few days and weeks, while the negotiations are happening? Is there any way to pressure? Are there any public events that are planned? And Maribel, feel free to step in.
Yes, I think probably people come in contact with unions, grocery workers, more than any other union member. And I think as they shop, I think they should tell their produce manager, the meat clerk behind the counter, their cashier, that they support them. They understand their struggle. They, too, want good jobs in their community because they know that builds the community and that they're behind them.
So moral support at this point?
At this point, yes, until we call for the action.
Sure. And so we'll know tomorrow night whether the strike authorization vote has passed by 2/3 majority or not. And can listeners find out updates on UFCW's website?
Yes, on the UFCW 770 website. Our results will be posted tomorrow night.
And the website is UFCW 770?
Google. All I do is Google these days. Right. I don't even know the WW numbers.
We'll post that on our website. We'll link that from our website, uprisingradio.org, later today. Any last thoughts to our listeners and a message to our listeners?
Thank you all for your support in 2003, 2004. You were essential to us standing there, as Maribel did for 4.5 months. And
you were also part of that strike way back then?
Yes. Yeah. I borrowed money from a friend of mine, and I bought a hot dog cart so I could survive. I had to.
During those 4 months?
Yeah, we didn't have unemployment. We didn't have insurance. I had to do something.
So the prospect of that looms, of another strike like that looms, but let's hope it doesn't go there. Right. John Grant and Maribel Garcia, I want to thank the two of you very much for joining us today. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Grant is the Secretary-Treasurer of UFCW Local 770. Maribel Garcia, cashier at Ralph's Market in Van Nuys.